You guys, welcome to a video that I've not actually done in a very long time indeed. It is a Premier League prediction video. Since there's a bit of time between now and FIFA 21 coming out, I thought I'd just get back into the swing of recording videos and seeing if all my software still works. And yeah, I've not actually done one of these in quite a while, and I'm not too sure why, because I actually did quite well at predicting, I think it was like 16-17 season, so it's been quite a while indeed. So yeah, let's get straight into the video. Into 20th position, I think this one is... I think a lot of people are predicting this. It's going to be Aston Villa going down. In fairness, they probably shouldn't even be in this video if it wasn't for goal line technology. You know, if that actually worked, they'd be relegated at this point, and Bournemouth would have been in this video, and I probably would have had a different bottom three. I don't think Bournemouth would have been in my predictions to go down for next season. I don't know, I think a number of factors just really ruined Bournemouth last season, and they kind of got unlucky with the goal line technology, and obviously Villa did capitalise on that. But yeah, this season, like, they've only signed Matty Cash and Grealish potentially moving maybe in January. Yeah, I don't see Villa having a great season and probably going straight back down to the Championship after a couple of years in the Prem. On to 19th then, we do have West Brom, another Midlands team of course, and again, just not improving enough. Like, they've spent very little and not really improved on their Championship team, which in fairness, I think Brentford were the better team out of West Brom and Brentford, and probably should have gone up on those automatic spots, but did obviously bottle those last two games against Barnsley, and can't quite remember the other team, but yeah, but Brentford, much better team, but West Brom obviously did get promoted, and I think they're just going to go straight back down because they've not really improved. Getting Matías Pereira on a permanent's good, but I just don't think they've got quite enough. On to 18th position, then we do have Fulham, first London club of course, and yeah, just again, like, another team that haven't really done much in the transfer window other than make signings that were loans from last season permanent, like Knockart and Harrison Reed, and then they've brought in Mario Lemina is quite an interesting one from Southampton, but I just haven't improved enough, and we're kind of lucky to win the playoffs, of course. I think Brentford were favourites, and Fulham obviously just about did it with that very freakish goal from Joe Bryant at left back. On to the first position out of the relegation zone then, and it is going to be West Ham in 17th. I think West Ham really poor. Like, they haven't really done... I don't think they've signed a single player this window. Let me quickly check that just before any West Ham fans get annoyed at me, but I don't see them doing well. They did get Souček on a permanent, but again, it's the same squad from last season. They will make one or two signings between now and the end of this transfer window, but I just don't see enough from West Ham, and could very easily fall into those relegation zones. The first 6 games, I think West Ham play against pretty much all the top 6, so yeah, I just don't think Moyes is going to get off to the best of starts, and could very easily be the first manager sacked in the season. On to the next team then, it is Crystal Palace, another London club. We've got 3 London clubs in a row there. I think Roy Hodgson's, you know, as long as he stays at that club, they're going to get to like 30 points by like March, and then just, you know, get those last few points just to stay in the Premier League. But they're not going to get any higher than like 12th, but they're not going to go down. So I think 16th is about right for Crystal Palace. They did get Eze from QPR. It was a really good signing, I think. Be interested to see how he does with Zaha and AU and all that up top. But yeah, again, just not really, other than Eze, haven't really improved on the squad from last season. On to 15th then, we do have Leeds United. You know, ideally I would have put them 20th, but I've got to be unbiased and give them credit. They have made some pretty decent signings actually. I think Rodrigo from Valencia is quite a good one, and Robin Koch, he's a Germany international. Not really heard much about him, and obviously getting Jack Harrison and Helder Costa sorted for the next season as well. You know, that Bielsa's one of those managers that could, I don't know, I think the press could get on top of him in this season. It'll be interesting to see how Leeds do with Bielsa in the Premier League, and yeah, 15th. They might get relegated, but I don't think they'll get any higher than like 10th. But they could surprise us like Wolves and Sheffield United did in the last few seasons. On to 14th position, then we do have Burnley. You know, Burnley are one of the most predictable teams in this whole thing. They're not going to get higher than 10th, but they're not going to get relegated. They're going to be, you know, about 14th. So they're one of the most interesting teams in my opinion, because they pick up points where they shouldn't and then drop points against teams that they should easily win against. So Burnley 14th, it's a very funny club, and I think but Burnley are happy with where they are. They're happy to be in the Premier League, but they're not going to push any higher than 14th. On to the next player then, on to the next team, sorry, and it is going to be Sheffield United. I think 9th, I think it was last season. Very good season for Chris Wilder, and has made a couple of signings so far. They did get Ampadu from Chelsea, and they've got obviously Bogle and Lowe from Derby. I quite like those signings. They're young players that can potentially come in, maybe get Ampadu on a permanent if Chelsea aren't interested in him. And it'd be interesting to see how they do with Ramsdale in goal. I don't think he's not as good as Henderson, of course. So it'll be very interesting to see if they do struggle with a new goalkeeper, but I think just tactically they're just so good, and another mid-table finish for them is very likely. On to 12th position then, we do have Southampton, a team that's again similar-ish to I don't know, kind of like Burnley in a way. Like they're gonna not get relegated, but they're not gonna push any higher than like 9th. They're an interesting one. I think Ralph Hasenhüttl's a good manager, but I think squad-wise they don't have the best of teams. They did get Walker Peters and Salisu from Real Valladolid for 10 million, so defensively they've improved, but maybe could do one or two more signings between now and the end of the window. I think losing Højbjerg to Spurs is quite a big loss for them. I think he was one of the best players in their midfield, obviously with Ward-Prowse. So I'll be interested to see how they do, but I think a mid-table finish again for Southampton. There's about 6 or 7 teams that won't get into the top 8 and won't get relegated, and they'll just be in that area. Southampton are definitely one of them. On to 11th then, it is a bit of a high position than you may expect, and it is Brighton Hove Albion. And the reason I put them this high is I think Graham Potter's doing a great job tactically with them. They have the ability to play like 1 or 2 formations quite easily. Obviously they've brought in Adam Lallana from Liverpool, and if he can get into a bit of form, obviously not really played that many games at Liverpool from the start, so now that he's got that licence to play from the beginning, I think at Brighton he could do quite well. And also Ben White obviously having a great season with Leeds just adds to their brilliant defence of like Dunk and Ryan in goal as well. So I think Brighton are probably going to have a quite decent season. I've seen a few people predict them to go down, but in my opinion I think they've improved quite nicely. Obviously quite a young squad, and will do well. On to 10th position then, we do have Newcastle United. I think Newcastle have had one of the best transfer windows out of all the Premier League teams, bringing in Jeff Hendrick and Ryan Fraser on frees, and then Jamal Lewis and Callum Wilson for I think Wilson they got for about 20 mil and Jamal Lewis for 15. I think that's great business, and I think 10th place, I think all Newcastle fans will take that. I don't think they're going to get much higher than that. They're not going to get relegated. I've seen a few people predict Newcastle get relegated. I don't think Steve Bruce with that squad, he's brilliant, and I think a lot of people need to realise that he's slowly building something there at Newcastle, and I think 10th position for them is about right. On to 9th position then, we do have Leicester City, which is quite a big drop off from their 5th place from last season, but I think they've lost Ben Chilwell for one. Is quite a big loss for them, and I think defensively I think they've replaced him with Timothy Castagne from Atalanta, who's kind of more used to a 3 at the back system, so it'll be interesting to see how he does from the Serie A, of course. But yeah, Leicester, they're a bit of an interest. Obviously Brendan Rodgers is a brilliant manager, but the top 8, I'm not even joking, this top 9 you could quite easily, obviously the top 2 or 3 is kind of set, but from 9th to 4th you could kind of move them about quite easily. So don't take all the predictions too seriously, they're just thought off the top of my head. But yeah, I think trying to get into that top 8 is just a little bit too difficult for Leicester, and haven't really improved from last season in the transfer market. On to 8th position then, we do have Arsenal, which might be a bit controversial, but it's so difficult to predict this like top 8. But I think at the minute they haven't quite improved enough. I think Gabriel and Willian is a step in the right direction, but I just don't think it's quite enough to get into that top 7. I think the top 7, even the top 10 of the Premier League next season is going to be super competitive, and one of the top 6 teams will always kind of have a bit of a bad season. It'll be interesting to see who that does happen to, but I think with Aubameyang's contract situation as it is at the minute, I just don't see Arsenal, if they sign Aubameyang to a new 2 or 3 year contract, maybe they'll get into the top 6. But I think at the minute, with that looming and then potentially losing him in January, I just don't see how Arsenal can get any higher than where I've predicted them. But they may shock me, as many teams may shock me in this prediction video. But yeah, I think 8th for Arsenal. They've made a couple of decent signs, but it's just not quite good enough, in my opinion. Obviously, Arteta's quite an inexperienced manager. Did do quite well, winning the FA Cup, of course. But yeah, just it's one of those things. The top 8 is going to be so difficult to predict, and have been a little bit controversial. On to 7th position, then we have got Everton. I was very tempted to put them 6th, but I just defensively they're quite a bit shaky still. Could do with another centre back and right back, but I think the midfield of Decore, Allen, and Rodriguez is just going to be phenomenal. Also, we've got Andre Gomez at Everton. So yeah, that midfield is brilliant. Obviously, you've got the front 2 of Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I'd say Everton have got a better. Have Everton got a better squad than Arsenal? It's pretty even. Obviously Aubameyang's that top player, but if you take Aubameyang out of the equation, they're pretty even in terms of squads. So I think 7th for Everton is about right. On to 6th position, then we do have Wolves. I think the lack of Europa League football this season is going to benefit Wolves massively. They've already recruited Fabio Silva from Porto for 36 million, which is a brilliant buy at 18 years old. If he hits anywhere near where his football manager ability is, they've got a brilliant player on their hands, and obviously with Jimenez up top, one of the best strikers in the league, I don't see why Wolves can't potentially even move into 5th position. I think Wolves, without European football, just concentrating on Premier League games, they could very easily win an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup as well. So yeah, I think Wolves, they did lose Doherty to Spurs, which is quite a big loss, but I think they'll have the ability to replace him with some Portuguese right back somewhere. So we'll have to wait and see, of course. But yeah, for the time being, I think 6th for Wolves is about right. They may even get 5th. On to the next position then. I think a lot of people are going to be a little bit annoyed at this, but I have a reason for it, and it is Manchester United in 5th. Now, they have got, at the minute, at the time we're recording, on the 9th, their only signing is Donny van der Beek. If the window closes and they don't sign any more, they will get 5th, because they've got Champions League football, and the top 7 have improved so much. I just don't see how Man United can get into the top 4. It's one of those where if they do sign Sancho, they could get into the top 4, but at the minute I'm putting them at 5th. I think they still need another striker. I think they definitely need a left back and another centre back. But they're on the right track. I think it's a slow process with Man United, which I think the fans don't kind of mind, with Ollie playing quite attractive football. But yeah, I think a 4th or a 5th for Man United. With the Champions League football, of course, this year they should struggle a little bit more in the Premier League. On to 4th position then. Maybe another controversial one, but I've put Spurs in there. I just think Mourinho gets those results. He got top 2 and won a Europa League and won, was it the Carabao or the FA Cup with Man United? So I don't see why with Spurs, you've got Heung-min Son, Kane, Lucas Moura, Dele Alli. If he can get Dele Alli firing again, I don't see why Spurs can't get top 4. They've brought in Højbjerg and Doherty, who I think are really good players. I think a lot of people aren't rating those signings, but I think with Mourinho's ability, he can just push those players to the next level. And I don't see many holes in the Spurs system. That's, Man United need a left back, they need a centre back, they need a striker. Whereas Spurs, their first team 11 is very good indeed, and I don't think maybe a backup striker for Kane, but other than that, there's not really much needed to improve, in my opinion. So I think a top 4 for Spurs is very, very likely indeed, and that's where I've put them. On to the next team. This one's going to get me a lot of stick, and it is Liverpool. Now, the reason I've said this, and maybe why Leeds are so low as well, is because of their high press system. The amount of fixtures that are being played and the lack of pre-season fitness-wise is going to be a bit of a concern for those teams, and the lack of transfer business for Liverpool is a little bit concerning. All they've signed at the minute is the Greek left-back. I'm not even going to try and say his name. They've lost a really good centre-back. I'm joking, it's Dejan Lovren. But I think they're losing Wijnaldum to Barca, and I think he played every single Premier League game last season for Liverpool, and I think replacing Wijnaldum is quite difficult. They're looking at Thiago, but at the minute I'm predicting this on what the transfer is. There's no point in like, oh, are they going to get this player or not? I'm just doing it on what their current squads are and how other teams have improved. So I think Liverpool in third. I think one of the top 2 of City or Liverpool are definitely going to drop out of the top 2 just because of the high level that they've had in the last like 2 or 3 seasons. I just don't see how they can continue to keep it up. So I think third for Liverpool. They may, get back-to-back Premier Leagues. They may win the Champions League and completely prove me wrong. But I think at the minute, with the lack of transfer business, it's a little bit concerning. On to second position then. Might be a little bit biased as he is a former Derby manager, but it is going to be Chelsea with Frank Lampard. On transfer business alone, I think it's one of the best I've ever seen in the Premier League. It's like when Man City got taken over by the owners. I think the way they've recruited is brilliant, because all the players, so other than Thiago Silva, are under 27. Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, Chilwell and Sarr, all under 24. So even if they don't win it this season, Chelsea are going to win the league within the next 2 or 3 years, guaranteed, because of the sheer firepower that they do have in, Germany's best striker Werner, Germany's best attacking midfielder Havertz, Hakim Ziyech, brilliant attacking player, Chilwell, one of the best left backs in the league, and you got Thiago Silva, who's one of the best centre backs ever. And I don't see why people aren't putting Chelsea in the top 2 and maybe even fighting for the Premier League title. Like, that jump from top 4 to top 2, fighting for the title is quite big. But I think with those signings, I just don't see how Chelsea can't get. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Lampard to get, the top 3 at least. And it'll be interesting to see how they do in the Champions League, of course. And it's only a prediction at the end of the day. I might be wrong, and Liverpool might win it again. So don't shoot me. So obviously, the final team is Manchester City, and I think the reason I've put them here is because Pep has to either win the Premier League or win the Champions League this season. If he doesn't do that, he's getting sacked. There's no way about it, because the amount of money that they have spent. Of course, they did bring in Nathan Ake and Ferran Torres from Valencia, who I think are 2 very good players, both young. And I think one thing that City missed, obviously, last season was Laporte. Like, they lost company anyway because he went to Anderlecht. But I think losing both your first team centre backs, it was just not going to be a good season for Manchester City. So I think with Laporte back fit and Nathan Ake, it's interesting that they've got both 2 left-footed centre backs. Obviously Koulibaly potentially joining. But yeah, this top 3, it's just, it's always difficult to predict. But I think the top is harder to predict than the bottom, just because of how high the stakes are and how many different factors. De Bruyne hits his heights and does what he did last season. I just don't see why Manchester City can't win the title again under Pep, but maybe they'll focus on the Champions League. We'll have to wait and see. So yeah, hopefully guys did enjoy this Premier League prediction video. Not all of them are obviously going to be liked by everyone, but you know, it's an opinion at the end of the day. So let me know your opinions in the comment section down below. I think the bottom like half I'm pretty happy with. I don't see anyone really changing too majorly in those positions. It's just that top 9 that is a bit of a tricky area, which I'm not too sure if I've done well or not. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below on what your predictions are, maybe just like the top 4, bottom 3, and who's going to be the top goal scorer. That's actually quite an interesting one. I think I'm going to do an outside punt and say Werner, just because, you know, why not? So yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Leave a like if you did enjoy, and see you soon. Bye.